Figma is central to most designers' workflows these days, and so new releases to the platform are cause for excitement. Some big things were dropped recently at Figma's annual conference, Config. Noah Levin, VP of Design at Figma, joined us for a special AMA with the Design Better community to demo some of those new features and answer your questions.
During the AMA, we had some great questions from our audience covering topics like scaling design teams in the AI era, improving designer-developer collaboration, and what's next for Figma's tools.
By the way, did you know that we do AMAs every month? It's actually a benefit that all of our premium members enjoy, and it gets you access to some of the most influential designers and creative thinkers in the world. To learn more, head to designbetterpodcast.com/subscribe. And now, here's our conversation with Noah Levin, VP of Design at Figma. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Design Better AMA this month with Noah Levin. Hey, Noah, how are you?
Hey, good morning. How are you? Good to be here.
Noah, you're at the Figma headquarters today, right?
I am. You can see a little bit of it around me here. I'm on the 10th floor here in our San Francisco office.
Nice. Fantastic. Well, we're excited to talk to you today. We're going to cover a lot of territory. Figma has just released a ton of new features at Config. I would assume that a lot of folks here have maybe gotten wind of some of those features, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But first, before we jump in, Eli, let's talk about what's new with Design Better.
Let's do it. Give me 1 second. All right. So here at the top, we got a kind of a fun thing that's a bit different. We were at the New York Times last month, and we got interviewed by the head of their design team. So the kind of tables were turned. We're used to asking questions, but we got to tell a bit of our story, how Design Better came about and how we, now think about it and run the business. And so if you want to look at a little bit of behind the scenes there, that's a fun one to check out. Just came out yesterday, we'll release it Tuesday. We've also been doing some more video rewinds. So up till now, we've mostly released audio from our episodes, but we're starting to go back and edit some of the video and release that. So this is a really great episode with Kamasi Washington, who's a legendary jazz musician. He worked with Snoop Dogg and other great musicians. So that's a fun one.
Yeah. If you're not familiar with Kamasi Washington, totally cool. But I mean, this guy is a giant. He's incredible. And there's a lot that we as designers can learn from people in different disciplines. Super creative person. Also, probably some neurodiversity that's happening, which is a red thread we see with a lot of creative people we talk to. This video interview with him was fantastic. He talks about working with Kendrick Lamar, what that's like, working with Lauryn Hill, Snoop Dogg. It's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, it's a great one. We had on Josh Clark and Veronica Kindred. They work broadly on design systems, but we talked a lot about how generative AI is influencing the evolution of interfaces. And kind of a unique thing about that interview is that they're actually father-daughter working together. So that was kind of a nice dynamic to that one. Speaking of design systems, we had an AMA with Brad Frost earlier in June, and he's part of our Experts Residence program. Ryan Rumsey is as well, and he wrote an article here about the hard truths that designers need to hear. And then we're continuing to expand our library of books. So if you're a premium Design Better member, you get access to our library of books. So we've got all these ones out, and then we've got a couple more in the wings, right, Aaron? Which ones we got coming up?
Yeah, collaboration handbook, the animation handbook, and we have a few more. So you get access to all of these books when you become a premium subscriber, along with lots of other things as well.
Yeah, so lots of new stuff, and come check it all out.
All right, well, let's just jump in. I want to say hi to everybody. We've got folks in Atlanta, New Jersey, Riga, South Florida, India, Portland, the Philippines, Nepal, folks from around the world, Mexico, which is where I am today. Eli is in Carmel on the coast of California. No, let's jump in. What's new with you, and what have you been up to at Figma?
Yeah, it's been a ride. I mean, I'm so excited to be here and chat about it. I've been here going on almost 8 years, so it's been quite a journey. And I've got some stuff to share, so maybe I can share my screen and kind of show you a couple things.
Let's jump in.
Awesome. One sec. Here we go. Let's see if this works. All right.
We got it. Yep.
You got it? Cool. Well, I'm a visual person, so I figured I'd put together a couple things to show you all today. I just think it helps when telling a story to just see things, and so much of what we do at Figma is obviously very visual in nature, as are the things that you create with it. So I thought it'd be fun to just kind of show you a few things. Just to kind of take you back, this is 2017, around I think November, December. We're wearing 2018 t-shirts because we were celebrating the new year ahead. We were about to. And this is the whole company fitting around a lunch table. We can't do that anymore. We've grown quite a bit since then, but it was a special time. We were working on, I think, at that moment, just the beginnings of like plugins, prototyping, early stage stuff. But it was really a special time. And I was brought on, around then, moved back to San Francisco. I was in New York at the time, to help grow the design team. And so this is a snapshot in time each year of our design org. On the top left, you'll see that's around when I started. So this is Peter and Chris and Rasmus, and we were all that was the whole design team at the time. And over the years we grew quite a bit. So you can kind of see that evolution over time. I'll let you guess when the pandemic set in. You might be able to notice the nature of the picture shifted a bit here in 2020 and 2021. But I'm so proud of this. So much of what I do in my career, it's really about people. Everything we do is about our teams, about what we're able to do together. And and it just brings me so much joy to like see this and see the evolution of our team grow and how we've done the best we can to ship product here at Figma. And so, yeah, a lot over the years. We'll get into like some of the product evolution in a second here, but just kind of fun to remember that we're all people behind the screens that we sit in every day, working hard on this stuff.
Hey, Noah, can I ask you a quick question about this?
Yeah, of course.
Just looking at this visual representation, what I see is someone who's been through, team growth like this before as well. I know it's a lot. Like it's a lot for an individual to go through these changes. What's that been like for you to see the company grow and bring more people in, having to manage a lot more people?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, we, every 3 to 6 months, it's felt like a different chapter or a different challenge or a different journey. And I honestly, like, I never thought in my career that I would be like leading large organizations at all. Like I'm a designer through and through. I like to make things. I like to build things. And so I don't know that I could have ever been prepared for the challenges that show up as a team grows. And so, it's been humbling for sure, to say the least. I'm sure I've made a lot of mistakes at every phase and at every turn, but it's been really interesting because you're dealing with not only the organization scaling and growing, but you're dealing with sort of the industry changing, this pandemic, the ways that we work changing. So you're kind of adapting constantly. So at some point you just realize, well, nothing is constant, nothing in our lives generally is that constant. So you kind of just like at some point get a little bit more comfortable with the idea that change is inevitable. And that helps a little bit, but it's still, again, each phase there's a new lesson in it. So it's been for sure a really interesting set of challenges. So, and we can get into more of that as we go. There's truly like probably stories in each of those years, but I think one of the things I wanted to highlight is we've said this phrase, and nothing great is made alone, and it's one of my favorite phrases. And even evident in the slide before it by seeing all the people involved in making Figma. And I think it's true of both how companies work to build products, but I also think it's true of how you work with your community when building products, and how so much of what we do requires the feedback from everyone in the people using Figma to help understand what we should make next. And so I've always felt like different companies have different, philosophies, DNAs, things that drive them, things that motivate them. Usually it starts from the founder, something like that. And I think of Apple as like very known to be kind of marketing design kind of driven company, right? I think of Google. I worked there for a couple years, and think of it as very kind of engineering centered and driven in what they do. And there's no right or wrong way, in my opinion, to do this. There's so many ways to build successful companies and teams and whatever. But with Figma, you might think, okay, well, it's a design tool. So maybe the answer is that it's a design driven company. I actually would say that we are a very much a community centered company. I remember before I joined Figma, I met Dylan he's the CEO of Figma, as an early user of the product in 2015. I was just kind of, he was looking for feedback. And in the earliest days, I was so impressed with how leaned in they were to what I had to say about the product. And I was leading a team in New York, a company called ClassPass, and we started to be an early adopter of Figma. And they flew out an engineer named Ryan, and this is probably 2016, to watch us work. And I was blown away. I was like, whoa, first of all, like, you sent an engineer over, you sent, we're just a small team in New York. Like, what's going on here? And it was really because they genuinely just wanted to understand how people were using the tool. And that, to me, signaled that community was going to be an important part of this company. And it has been, every day since. And I think it's one of the many reasons I'm excited to be here on this AMA together, is to actually hear from you all and get some of the questions, because behind those questions, I'm sure are clues for me on what we should be building next. And it's really, you'll notice that a lot of us spend a lot of time on social media, our forums, going to the offices of different companies, because we learn so much more that way of what's going on. Of course, as designers using Figma internally, we have our own intuition, our own feedback about things, but we learn a lot by watching how people work. So if you go back to the beginning of Figma, right, we were one of the first design tools in the browser, really a great place to start collaborating with other people. At that time, a lot of people weren't sure that this is something they wanted. It was kind of a big shift in how people work to kind of work in the open and work transparently with each other. But I think it really resonated at some point. A lot of people realize that, again, nothing great is made alone. So you really get the benefits of collaboration in this space. But over the last 10 years, the company has evolved a lot, right? We're now a multi-product company. We're a platform more than a single tool. And so I'll talk about how each of these products is sort of going to our second product, FigJam, in 2021, born out of the pandemic, when everyone needed a whiteboard that they could work together on collaboratively without being in an office. And that also came from observing that people were using Figma, creating sticky note components, and they were having meetings in Figma, and we were blown away. Like, that's not what the tool was built for, right? It was built for screen design, for software. And all of a sudden, people were having discussions, robust, interesting, conversations. And so that was a great clue that we should probably build a product around it. And we've debated and can get into like whether or not you could just have Figma do everything, or whether you need separate products. But it really helped because, you don't want to bloat a product with too much at once. So it really helps to start to break things out. Eventually, of course, Dev Mode was born, a really helpful way to work with developers. We noticed that almost a third of our entire user base are developers. So only about a third are designers. And then the last third is kind of a long tail of different roles. So, wow, like a lot of people who aren't designers showing up and actually needing to build the things we're making. So, of course, we should build a product for them too. Then, of course, after that, Figma Slides. Similar thing with FigJam, right? People were showing us that they wanted a slides tool because they were making slides in Figma, which, again, the tool wasn't built for that, but they did anyway. So it's one of the great privileges of working on a tool is you don't know what people are going to make yet. Like, you put it out there, people might use it for anything. And that is really an inspiring way for us to learn what's needed next. So then, of course, this past year, if any of you tuned in to Config, I don't know if any of you were able to go, we shipped 4 new products, kind of doubling our product offering, which is a lot to digest, I'm sure. And I don't know if all of you have had a chance to try them all or not, but I wanted to take a beat and show you like why this is happening, like why we're adding products to the ecosystem. And it's because we believe that we should offer the ability for you to, whatever ideas in your head, whatever you're trying to build, we want to help you make it real, right? We want to help you put it into the world. Whatever your imagination is, we want to make it reality. And doing that requires a lot of different things, a lot of different steps, a lot of different kinds of challenges, right? And so at each of those phases, whatever the part of your journey, we hope to offer you a creative visual canvas to help you get your work done. And so that's why we've built this platform to do that. And, so again, whether you're at the beginning and you're just brainstorming, or then you're aligning together, you're working through slides to kind of get a vision together, maybe some storytelling, moving into high fidelity with Figma Design, moving into more expression with Figma Draw, building it, dev mode, maybe publishing it as a site, and then getting your message out into the world with different marketing assets and buzz. And then Figma Make is something we see as kind of useful in any stage. And we'll talk about that in a second. I personally like to think of this as kind of like a creative operating system. You're living in a world where you might need any one of these tools for a particular job to be done. And we hope that this is something that we can offer. We hope that people can find value in different phases, no matter what they're making. And so just going to take a second to show you kind of a quick visual recap of each of the things that came out, because it can be a lot to remember. This is my personal favorite, Figma Make. It's a big one. So this is basically kind of a tool that lets you prompt something into existence. You can reference designs in doing that. Most recently, about I think a week or two ago, one of the top requests we've been hearing is, hey, I want to use my design system for Make. Like, I want to be able to use all this work I put in over the last 10 years into my company's design system. That needs to exist somehow here, right? So this is step one of many in this journey. Was, all right, well, we know how important this is to you. So let's start by at least giving you something we're calling kind of style context. So in this quick video, you can see you publish one of your libraries for use in Figma Make, and it makes sure that the styling and sort of rendering of your ideas at least matches the basic styles. Now, of course, this doesn't yet do things like components. We absolutely know that that's important, and it's something we're thinking a lot about. Figma Draw, something that's really near and dear to my heart, really special product, lets you kind of express your ideas in much more, rich and interesting and dynamic ways, right? Allowing you to have this takes me back, for anyone who grew up using, Photoshop and playing with DeviantArt and remember going back to the tutorials of how to make a brush, all that stuff. It's a lot of fun. It really helps you express more. But behind just brushes, there's actually like 20 plus things that came out as a part of Draw. And a lot of those things are useful, whether you're drawing or making interfaces in general. And so this is kind of a quick, recap of some of those things. Most recently, I think a week or two ago, we launched variable width stroke. So you can actually change the widths of this stroke throughout a particular, vector shape. And so there's a lot that went into this. Then, of course, Figma Sites. So the ability to just publish. We knew you were already making, I forget what percentage, but a large portion of people using Figma were making websites. So it just makes sense that you should get a publish button, right? You should have the ability to make it real. And in a minute, I'll show you some of the ones I personally made, which has been a lot of fun. But yeah, the whole goal here is just to make it much easier for you to have complete creative control over your work and get it into the world in a way that you're proud of. A big part of that, and most recently, is something called code layers. I'm not sure if this video is going to play. Let's give it a shot. If not, that's okay. But basically, it's the ability to add a prompt to existing designs. In this case, I took a Polaroid and let you basically shake it to show you the actual image. Didn't need to code, right? Not everyone can code, and that's okay. But you can prompt things using the power from Figma Make directly into your sites in something we call code layers. I can show you a real example of that in a minute. And then finally, the fourth one, Figma Butts. And this is really about working with marketers to get your story into the world. And that comes in so many shapes and sizes, right? You might have Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, whatever, or real world, kind of posters, all these moments. And you often need to scale that to different languages or different messages or different seasons. And this tool is really built to be much more accessible and easy to use for people who may not have a design background, but you as designers can make these bespoke templates using the tools you're familiar with so that other people can come in and just make quick changes and simple edits in the guardrails of the system that you want. Another kind of fun part about this, and this has been true of a lot of our products now, is building and bringing in the latest and greatest AI models into your work. And so partnering with companies like OpenAI here with GPT Image 1 that lets you just quickly make a prompt and say, hey, this image actually should be sunset for whatever reason, right? Like, you shouldn't have to leave Figma to do a lot of these things. You should be able to just, whether it's remove the background, boost the resolution. We're thinking of so many more use cases around imagery that benefit from these new AI powerful tools. So lots of really fun stuff happening there. So I know that was a lot. I figured maybe instead of showing you slides, I would just show you some actual, content and files from my own personal life, if that's interesting.
Yes, please. That sounds
Uh,
great.
Awesome. So these are two sites I built. I've actually never shared this with anyone before, so exclusive here. And it's this first one is something I called somethings.fyi as the URL, and so it's live. You can go to the site today after you're at home. And this is all built in Figma sites. And so the idea behind this is like, I don't know about you all, like I love collecting things. Like I like my favorite things. Like there's something about it as an expression of what you care about, your identity, things that you think are beautiful and interesting. As designers, like I feel like we've a lot of appreciation for the fact that everything around us was designed. Like it took work, it took effort. So I wanted to put together like an homage to some of my favorite objects, and that could be anything from like furniture to actual like software, TV shows, podcasts. Here's Design Better Today, and I just wanted a place to be able to share that, and if other people were interested in that, and maybe they can make their own, or they can kind of publish their own. So what's fun is all of this just uses Figma, right? It's just all the same tools you're familiar with. So those are just components, right? And I can just change the image and text of a given component. It's using auto layout and grid, so I can just arrange them by using my left and right arrow keys up and down. I even and you can preview it here, and of course it's responsive. So making sure that it scales to different screen sizes. And then I built in Easter eggs. And so one popular trend was these 3D kind of objects. I don't know if you've seen that trend in the last couple months. And I thought it was cute. And why not use modern, again, AI image tools to kind of try it out? So in this case, you can kind of toggle between just screenshots from the internet about these products that I like and viewing them in their kind of, fun, cute, isometric, Airbnb-like, 3D kind of style. So it's just, just a lot of fun to be able to use the products we build at Figma for our own interests, and I'm a big TV addict. Unfortunately, I love TV. These are just a couple of shows I've watched, and it's just kind of fun to organize this stuff. And you can see we have like all kinds of scrolling and parallax effects and hover effects, and these are some examples of sites that inspired me to make this from other people in the world, and so. Yeah, so that's one. That was just like a really fun one. Again, it's called somethings.fyi. You can see it's just all here in one file. I can see it all in one place. So that's the first one.
Noah, about like how much time does it take you to do something like this?
That's a good question. I feel like it's sort of like in a lot of projects, how long does design take? It can take a lot of time. This is for me, it's been like a kind of like, it started off as I wanted something to internally test this new product we were building. And so it was a slow build. Like, I feel like, one night a week, maybe 2 nights a month, I would jump in and, play around, explore, take inspiration, kind of bring things together. I don't know if I could tell you sort of how long it took end to end, but when it's something you love doing, you just kind of come back to it when you want, and you publish it and update it when you want. If I ever want to add a new object, I just copy paste a frame here, add the image, and then I just hit publish, and it's done, and it's on the site. So it's just kind of fun to have like this living document that kind of just exists on the web. I love that we can store so much great information there.
Yeah, and very different to be able to see all of the different pages and states of your site in one place and live edit what is already published.
Yeah, it makes it sort of feel like you're just editing the web directly, and it's and then we have all kinds of clever tricks for like, if I change text in one area, just like with components, it can change it across responsive sizes and all that. So yeah, it's just it's a lot of fun to have, to get to use our own tools for things that we care about. You can see kind of the different inserts here. We're actively working on CMS right now, and and so that'll also be helpful for something like this where it's very content driven. So I'm excited to wire that up later. It's been a lot of fun. A couple other quick examples. So I was a big fan of a company called Read CV. Andy Chung and crew built a really cool product that they got acquired by Perplexity. And when they were going to shut down, I talked to Andy about, hey, like, would you be okay if we like ported this to Figma sites? A lot of designers have put time into this, and I don't know about you all, building a portfolio is like intimidating, right? Like it takes all this time. A lot of people struggle with it. It's this thing that always falls off your to-do list. And I guess kind of feel like at a certain point, just like a list or a resume or LinkedIn is easier, but just with a little bit more creative control. And then you can build onto it. So rather than trying to, boil the ocean, or as they say, like get the whole site done at once. Start with the basics, which is just like maybe the projects you've worked on in text form, and then add to it over time when you want. And so we built a plugin that lets you import your read CV stuff. But I wanted to show you code layers because that's kind of a really fun feature that really lets you bring things to life. And this is what I mean by like start with the basics and like build up to something more interactive and interesting. So in this case, we're using all the power of Figma Make to let you prompt things into reality. In this case, I just wanted some fancy interactions where I move my mouse around and the text kind of animates. And you can see my prompts over time. Just pretty simple. I want a fun hovering effect. I don't know what it is yet. Let's explore, and go back and forth and create it. And then that's great because then when you actually want to play with it on a site, you can do that and it feels real. And you'll see I've added a few other code layers here. So up here on the top left, you can see that there's like a little bit of a hover effect, 3D effect going on. And as I move my cursor down, I have custom cursors. I have a custom animation, all built with this code layers feature. And so all of it is done where I just kind of like have an area here and I just double click it and you can see me kind of prompting the experience that I want into that section. And so, a lot of fun just to make simple things, but bring them to life with some prompts is something really exciting. And then of course, all those cursors are just, here, they're just referenced here and you can kind of update them on the fly. And so a few other things, my wedding site from a few years ago, I brought it into Figma site. So it's kind of fun to kind of see it come together. And one exciting news, my wife and I are expecting our first kid coming up. So actually the end of next month. And so I used Buzz actually for our baby shower with, putting together a bunch of options and working together on them. And I used this feature called Bulk Create to basically take a spreadsheet of icebreaker questions because we wanted everyone to come together in our baby shower and talk about things that were special to them, when they were a kid, things that, that would be interesting. So I just took a spreadsheet where Vita, then my wife, not even needing to know what Figma Buzz was, could input all these interesting questions and I could just bulk create it into this format and I can update them over time and change it. So just a lot of fun to kind of just bring a little bit of delight into, our lives with some of these tools. So just wanted to share a couple behind the scenes personal, moments using our tools there.
That's great. You get a ton of congratulations in the comments.
Yeah.
That's very nice of you all. Thank you. Yeah, we're excited. Baby girl. We're really excited about it. It's we have no idea what we're doing. It's going to be fun. So just to close things out on this kind of, this kind of pre-prepared slide set of stuff that I wanted to show you all, like, obviously we're doing a lot with AI across all of our products. It's something we're thinking a lot about, and you'll notice this show up in each of our products. And the beauty of having a platform like this is if you add something like the ability to edit an image using the latest image models, that's going to be helpful for you, whether you're in a design file, a slide deck, a brainstorm. We think a lot of these things compound, right? You make a change in one and it's the same platform, so it makes the change in a lot of them. We also are excited about how our tools bring people together and let you use the tools you're familiar with if you're a designer, and then switching to a mode that you're more comfortable with if you're maybe a marketer, a PM, a developer, maybe not as comfortable with Figma's tools. And the last thing I wanted to say, I feel like when I got out of college, a lot of my impression of the corporate world or the world of building things looked something like this, where, there's someone presenting and everyone's listening or not listening, but just one person, the loudest voice in the room talking. And, I just feel like working can and should be fun, like on some level. Like we spend 8 or more hours a day doing this. We should enjoy it. And so I think about the tools that we try to create for people and the experiences that we want to make as collaborative, inclusive, accessible, exciting. And if you look at that compared to that world where it's maybe just like kind of one person presenting from their desktop, but instead like we're creatively making a visual canvas of great stuff together, it just feels different. It feels nice. It feels fun. And so I hope that we can help you all take your ideas, make them real, navigate we sometimes call it the idea maze, right? You have all these different ideas and you don't know where they're going to go. And we hope that our tools let you, bring in a lot of these ideas faster. Things like Figma Make, you can almost skip to the end. You can just skip to the end and see, was that idea actually interesting? Okay, cool. Let's find out. And, if it was going to take you a week to build it, you would never know. But if it just takes you a little bit of time, you can start to explore this maze in more interesting ways. So that's my intro here. Excited to chat more and get into anything you're curious about the behind the scenes of this stuff, or anything about teams and designing, whatever it is. Just really happy to be here and to hear about what you're all interested in and what you want from us. And and just glad to spend the time.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for that, Noah. That was such a wonderful overview. If you are new to Design Better AMAs or maybe new to Crowdcast, there's a little icon on the right, question mark inside of a chat bubble. That's where you ask your questions. We've got a lot of questions already in there, so I think we're just going to jump right in so we don't we can make it through as many as we can here.
Yeah.
Eli, where do you want to start?
Let's start with the top question. So in addition to asking questions, you can upvote questions. Right now, the most uploaded one is from Liz, and she's asking, what do you wish more junior UX designers understood about career growth? No, I'm sure you've seen folks at all stages of their career. So
yeah, sure have. And we actually have an early career program at Figma. We've been hiring interns and new grads since even when I started. So we've been investing in early career talent for a long time, and something we really believe in. I think a lot of times when you're early in your career, you think about you're looking for this like checklist. Maybe like you might be like, okay, what does it take to get promoted? Like, what do I need to get to my next stage of my career? And that's totally understandable. And there's a lot of different frameworks people look at when they're doing that. But I think when you're early in your career, it can be almost overwhelming to know what to focus on. Like, oh, should I do this? Like, should I do that? Should I invest in being a better storyteller, visual designer, prototyper? And I think instead of trying to do everything, just initially, if you can, just try to focus on being helpful, like in using whatever one of those things you feel comfortable in that early stage, and not being afraid to use that superpower, whether that again was how to tell a great story or make something look nice or whatever. And try to remember that not everything has to be your idea. Like when I was getting started, I used to feel so protective about like, oh, I'm the designer. Like it's my job to like answer every question. And that's a lot of weight to put on yourself. But as we said earlier, like nothing's great is made alone. So like early in my career, I got lucky to work with these great engineers who had great design ideas. And rather than pushing them away and being like, oh, that's not your job, that's my job. If you just listen and you just kind of be like, oh, wait, what's that idea you had? Like, and take it into account, I feel like you can get a lot further. Like when you see yourself as a helper, that's at least is how I operate in the world. Like I just like to be like, yeah, I want to help. All right, what are we doing? I think you can accomplish a lot, and so you don't have to do everything, I guess, is the main answer I have to this question. Like just try to be helpful, use whatever it is you are comfortable with to make a difference. And and if it's helpful for you, we actually open sourced our career ladder at Figma, if that's interesting. So we can share the link in the chat if you're curious to take a look. We open sourced it. We use FigJam, and so if that's interesting or helpful to you, you can see how we see career progression at Figma.
That would be a very valuable resource. Yeah, we'd love to share that with everybody here. Oh, Eli, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. My vested board was going off earlier. A related question is, what would you say to a designer or developer who worries about how AI will affect their job role and career opportunities? This was something Aaron and I were intending to ask you. Is with these blurring of boundaries between design and dev. And I'm sure that's what you're thinking about that in a product way a lot. But on the human side, how are you thinking about somebody that might be wanting to really prepare themselves for this very different career landscape?
Yeah, great question and very relevant and timely topic. So my belief is that it's getting easier and easier to make software, right? You can almost prompt software into existence now. But that's not always like, if you think about what we do as designers, we're trying to make things useful, simple, usable, friendly. If you have an explosion of software, let's say you have 1 million apps you could download on your phone, well, then what becomes important, right? What's important to you in like an attention economy when you don't want 1 million experiences like that. You probably just want a few meaningful ones. Well, then design is what stands out the most. Design, like your brand, the way you solve that problem, the way that you innovate and create something new. And the reason I'm starting with that context is that I actually think, this might sound like surprising to people, I actually think it's the best time to be a designer right now. Like there is so much demand. There's so much need for this because everyone is interested in participating in the process. They want to create things, but they need someone with the ingenuity, the talent, the creativity of a designer to help make their ideas better. And I think that's even more true now in a world where you have more problems to work on. Like you can't move through the world and not, as designers, we're cursed sometimes to notice everything we wish were better. Like, like whether it's like, working with our banks, institutions, or forms or whatever in the world, there's clearly room for improvement. While obviously AI has improved a lot, there's still no shortage of problems. And so there's no shortage of needs for designers. So that's the first thing, is like, let's keep that context in mind, that actually designers are very needed right now. And we need you to keep making things better. That's the beauty of what we do. The second thing is, it's totally natural to be a little nervous or afraid of change, right? This happens a lot, and especially when some of these tools, like, we're changing the way that we probably move around the world as quickly as we have been. It's unsettling. I don't think humans were like designed for that kind of rapid change. But actually, like, probably the best thing you could do, I think, is approach some of this stuff with curiosity and with play. Like, try to just play with it, try it out. If you think of it as like this foreign alien material, you're like trying to figure out what it is and what it can do, what these models are good at. Most of us didn't go to school studying machine learning, or we don't understand neural nets, whatever. So like, how do you as a designer show up? Well, you just try. You just play around. You try to understand, well, what do these models do? Great. So whatever, use whatever tools you want to, and I know there's a lot out there. Use whatever one you want to start with and just play. Just try it out. Like, if you work in a design team, maybe ask your manager, your team, hey, can we just take a Friday, take the morning? Can we just like try one of these new tools, or try a few of them and just talk to each other? What did we learn? So I think the best way to move through anxiety is action. Like, the best way to move through like uncertainty and not, like, at least personally, I think it's like, you just feel better when, instead of ruminating and like worrying about what's going to happen to us, like, you just try. Like, I know it's not always that simple, but it's just, I just feel like that's a start, and that's what I would say.
I think that's a great point, Noah, and that's something, we've been running these workshops that are sort of design plus AI workshops for teams at Google and Waymo, and these teams are building these tools, but they often don't have time to really play around with it or, explore how they might, use them within their workflow as a team. So if you can do that, like Noah said, get a day together, or shameless plug, come run one of the design workshops with us. We're happy to do that. It's just an opportunity to explore, get some creative confidence, and it's fun too.
Absolutely. All right, let's jump into another question.
All right, here's our current top voted question. What are your recommendations for bridging the gap between our design system and the component library, Storybook and GitHub? You're not in sync, and design to development time is slow for enhancements and new components.
Yeah, great question, Heather. This is a big focus for us, actually. So when we built Dev Mode, a huge part of what we wanted to do was make the relationship between designers and developers and the tools we each use more symmetric, right? Make them feel more fluid and collaborative. So if you haven't already tried it, Code Connect is one way to get at the area you're interested in. And we can share a link in the chat to a handbook we wrote to kind of work through some of these challenges. Obviously, like, when you think about what the holy grail is here, you just want everything to always be in sync. Like, whatever is you're designing should match what's in production. Whatever's in production should match what you're designing. And we know it takes a lot of work to get there, especially if you work at a larger company and there's a lot of different, componentry to work through. But we are actively working a lot in this area. We think it's important for your design language, your design system, to mirror what your developers are building, of course. And so we think Code Connect is a good start. Recommend checking it out. And we are actively, heavily investing in areas like it to make that even better.
What you were showing, you're talking about Figma Make and design systems, like connecting that stuff together. That is amazing. That is super exciting.
Yeah, we feel like, there are just entire organizations, design systems teams, right? If you're a company like Google or Microsoft, there might be like 100 of you. If you're a smaller team, there might be 5 of you. That's your every day is building this like system that can scale the design language of your company. And we've invested so much at Figma in building tools for that. And so it's only natural that we should make sure that is helpful in the AI world, and that the investments you've made. I think of it as, look, AI is great when it has context. Like, it can't operate without context, and design system is amazing context. You've already written guidelines and descriptions, and you've given so much context. It just makes sense that these models should be able to leverage that.
Yeah. And what you said too, that a third of your customer base are developers. Presumably developers are in Figma on a regular basis, and there's such a blurring of roles where designers are vibe coding and developers are, vibe designing. So the idea of having your design system connected to AI prompts would help a developer work through, maybe these more esoteric pieces of an app that a designer might not be able to have the time, the bandwidth to get to, and get pretty close, like get to a pretty good spot following a standard design system.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, so much of design is communication and language. And right now, our teams are not always speaking the same language, right? The ways that they think about building, might be sometimes different. The words we use, the way we describe how something should look and feel. So hopefully over time, like you said, there's a blurring and a blending, because behind that language, we actually have goals, and those goals are actually the same usually. Like, we all want to build successful, helpful, easy to use, performant, fast, delightful products. And doing that is a shared goal, whether you're identify as a designer, a developer, a PM, a researcher. And so, yeah, I totally agree. There's kind of this blurring happening here where, designers should be able to be more comfortable writing code. I also believe, hot take, not so hot take, I don't know, developers should be designing too. Like, they understand the nuance of interaction design because they're the ones building it most of the time. And so it should be symmetric. We should be building our designs. They should be designing things they're building. That's my belief, is that we should be working more collaboratively.
Awesome. All right. So let's see. Here's our next top voted question. How do you think about hiring and scaling design teams in the AI age?
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about this in a lot of different ways. And I think it's like hiring, scaling. I would use another word, like enabling, right? Like, it's not always about like scale and growth. Sometimes it's also just about how do we as designers feel and empowered, be more efficient, use these tools to do our jobs better. And there's a lot to do there. And again, so I think the first thing I think about is, how do we inspire people? I'm not the kind of person who likes to lead by like mandates, like, you all must use these AI tools, or we're not going to hire you if you haven't like personally built something with Cursor. Like, obviously we look to people who are curious and who are playing with these new tools and who are exploring and who are willing to be bold and create. But we also think a great way to lead is to inspire. And a great way to do that is, even as leaders, as whatever, directors, managers, VPs, I personally believe we should be hands-on, not in like a overly the top micromanaging way, whatever, but we should lead by example, and we should be willing to be courageous and try some of these tools and to show what's possible. And so I think there's a big part of our philosophy here. We're trying to figure out, well, how do we do that? Like, what are the right ways to both get access to these tools, to let people try them, to encourage people to use them, and to see really what's possible when you do that. So yeah, I think there's when I think of hiring, scaling, again, to me, I think it's more around enabling. Like, how do we just make sure that people are successful? So one example, we are now actively looking at a role called AI model designer. Okay, what does that mean? Like, why are we hiring like an AI model design? What is that? And my belief is you're gonna see this. You're gonna see more and more companies hire this role or look to their designers to do it. And what this means to me is, we need to figure out where we have this new technology, right? This new capability, and designers need to work to understand it, to shape it, to sculpt it, to mold it, to get the best work you can out of it, which means understanding what these models are good at. So I don't know how many of you in the audience know what like evals are. Like, evals are when you're working in AI models, you are assessing something, an output from your prompt, right? You have a prompt, you have an output from what your ideal state was. And someone has to decide, was that good or was that not good? And if you're working in a text experience, you could, or like in a medical field, there might be, was the answer accurate? If you're like us and working in a design field, you're like, is this design good? Which can be subjective, right? It can be, how objective versus subjective is it? There are some things that are, I think, more objective, like clean typography and hierarchy and so on. But we need designers to actually sit with ML researchers directly and live and breathe these evals, these processes around it, and things like system prompts. I don't know how many of you work are using AI tools in your companies, but generally there is a system prompt, which is just human language, right? Text behind the system that is steering and guiding the way you're using the model. And I would love for more designers and UX writers or whoever to get involved in the system prompt. Like, why not? Like, why not understand how this stuff is getting built? Because increasingly it's plain language. It's language that you all hopefully know and are comfortable with. So I'm a big believer that you're going to need, whether you are a model company or not, right? You don't have to be, OpenAI, Anthropic, Meta, whatever, to do this. Like you will already be wrapping around these models or fine tuning them. So you might as well get comfortable understanding what evals are, what system prompts are, how to guide them, how to steer them, and how to train these models to do a better job. Like if we're just trying to create better outcomes, why not get closer to the work? So it's new to us. It's new to you. It's new to everyone. No one knows what they're doing in some of this stuff, I think, if we're truly honest, but we need to get in there and be valuable and understand how to help. So I would guess that increasingly we're going to see roles like this in the future.
It's fascinating. Right.
Keeping myself on mute. What resources do you recommend to keep up with all these new apps and features? It's overwhelming. YouTube channels, other. I have one resource I'll add in the chat, but what do you use, Noah, to explore new tools?
Yeah, social media is honestly where I spend the most time. So I would say like X and Threads are probably the two places that I like kind of look for what designers are making, using, sharing. Obviously there's things like Product Hunt and other places where people share the latest and greatest. Definitely there's YouTube channels, TikToks, really great people helping to teach these new tools. So I think, once you've identified a way to try something, like to me, it's like less that I care about getting the fire hose of daily information. You can even, if you work in a design team, there's probably someone in your team who's going to be doing that naturally. They might be the one that's already in the channel being like, oh, have you tried this new thing? So it doesn't always have to be you. But once you hear about it, I encourage you to find space and time to try it out. And if you need to, if you're worried about, well, I never have the time, maybe there's a way to use it for work, for the project you have in front of you, or for your personal life, or whatever it might be. And trying to apply it to something where there's already a natural goal. So you feel like that time was invested towards something, if there wasn't otherwise time to play and explore.
That's great. I'm dropping the link in here. This is there's a site called Studio Labs that it's like kind of like Product Hunt for AI design tools. So that's one place that's pretty regularly updated.
I like Noah's recommendation here of finding a personal project that you're excited about and then, building that. That's kind of what Eli and I have been doing. We're using AI, a variety of AI tools in so many different ways, just on fun little things. It could be, I want to learn something. So you start to use ChatGPT or Cursor or whatever it is in different ways. It might be that you want to build something very quickly. It's just like finding a personal project and pursuing that, making it a priority, spending some time every day. I find that to be the best. I do, look on YouTube for some videos just to see how some people are solving problems. And that's some inspiration. But the greatest inspiration is just having something you like to do and see if you can do it with the existing tools.
Yeah, it can even be like a really silly idea. I've mentioned this on other AMAs, but, at one point I was listening to Rick Rubin's podcast. I thought he just has a very unique style. We'll say, amazing, interesting. I thought, it'd be cool to make a Rick Rubin synthesizer. So I pulled a few samples and, dropped it into ChatGPT and designed this synthesizer within, 20 minutes or other. So it can be silly ideas like that, you just want to make something, go do it. It's easy these days.
Yeah. Fantastic. Next question.
All right. Let's see here. Aaron, is one standing out to you? We've got a couple here at the top. I'm trying to get to some other folks.
Yeah.
Haven't asked questions yet.
This one's pretty broad here from Liz. What emerging trends in design are you most excited about?
Yeah, great question. I think there are like different kinds of trends, I guess. There's like how we work kind of trends, and then there's sort of like what we make kind of trends, right? And I think I'll answer each of them. So for how we work trends, I have always been a huge fan of prototyping. What do they say? A prototype is worth 1,000 meetings. I absolutely believe that. And historically, I used to teach designers how to code. That used to be the way that I thought the best prototypes could be made. And if you think about emerging trends and moments, that you might not have to code at all because these tools are so good at prompting things, but using code behind the scenes. And so whether that's through code editors and submitting code yourself with tools like Cursor or Copilot or Windsurf or whatever, or using Figma Make to prompt something to prototype it, so that you can show up at that meeting with a prototype instead of a bunch of mock-ups. It's just easier. The fidelity of feedback gets better. So from that trend, I would say prototyping is my answer easily any day. Like that's, to me, so helpful, is to explore using the materials that your end users will be using, the actual product. And the closer we can get to simulating that experience, the better our design ideas will be. So that's the how we work trend that I would say. I think for the what we make piece trends, that's a good one. Love it or hate it, I'm a fan of liquid glass. I'm going to say it. I'm inspired by what Apple's doing, and I'll tell you why. The last 10 years of design tools, you've had rectangles and shapes, vectors, right? You've had text, you've got color, hierarchy, type, whatever around that. We haven't really given designers that many new means of expression and over this time, right? Like we've enabled things like design systems to make it a lot easier to scale the work using those primitives. But there's so many more materials in the world. There's so many. If you look at the world around you and you feel inspired by the way wind moves through, grass or trees, like all this stuff, like we don't express that in our software. We could. And I think what Apple did, what I thought was really cool, and I know there's a lot of work to do. I think people are way too harsh on betas. Like they've got time to iron out the kinks. I know that it's not accessible right now, and I believe that they'll improve that. They have been. But they took inspiration from the real world, the way that things refract, the way that things look with different physical materials, and they found a way using things like shaders and other, interesting code tactics to render that in software. And so I'm a big fan of things like shaders, a big fan of designers getting new materials to work with. And I think this is helpful because if everything in the world starts to look the same and everything starts to feel the same, we often want to feel inspired. We want both familiar things. Sometimes there's nothing bad with consistency, things feeling familiar. That's great. Like, of course, we need patterns like tab bars in our mobile apps. But at a certain point, people also crave something new. They crave something that makes them feel something, right? And so I'm a big fan of this trend with liquid glass that Apple's doing. I think it's cool that the company invested and designed so heavily to explore these different kinds of materials. And I think that is one of hopefully hundreds and hundreds of materials that we can start to play with. And so again, I'm very confident that they will improve the accessibility of the feature over time. It's a very early version. They've committed and shown a commitment to that in the past. They're at the forefront often with a lot of their tooling. It'll take time. So we have to, as an industry, be patient and of course, explore and be creative. But yeah, I just think there's something really magical about having new materials to work with at our disposal.
Absolutely.
Cool. So we definitely have probably more questions than we can get to this time. We'll try to be kind of behind the scenes, answer some of them if we can with, a support article or link if there's a clear, answer there. Let's see. Here's a question from this kind of interesting one. Print design. I used to do that a bit with a magazine. We do a lot of print work, and we're wondering if Figma plans to introduce more tools to support print-focused workflows in the future.
Yeah, that's a good question. We've would definitely love to hear more from you or anyone doing print, what you're looking for, what kinds of stuff you need. We've heard sort of requests around things around CMYK and different kinds of, color profiling work. Already in Figma, you'll notice that in the default frame templates, both in Figma Buzz, which could be great for this kind of use case, as well as Figma Design, you'll see that there's tabloid, paper, other kinds of defaults. And so you don't have to think too heavily about pixel conversion. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. I can't speak to our future roadmap in general, but I'm always interested in hearing what you want to make from print materials and what it is that you feel like you're craving and what's missing. Personally, I've used in my own personal life Figma for a lot of print materials. For our wedding, all the signage, all the different place cards and menus, I designed myself all in Figma. And so I think it's already possible today, but there's absolutely more to do and would love to hear what you're looking for.
We too have used Figma for a limited number of print things, and it's been great for us. So, yeah. This one, the next one here from Mike Neff, I resonate with. He's asking about. He says even with the addition of AI, building and polishing tables in Figma is time consuming and repetitive. We designed so many tables. How's Figma working to make that experience great? I've worked with tables in Figma. During COVID, I worked with the Africa CDC, creating a tracker for the continent of Africa for cases for each country and lots of data for epidemiologists. So we worked with a lot of big tables. I found some great plugins that helped me, but maybe you've got some other recommendations.
Yeah, great question. There's definitely a lot of improvement we have to make here. It got a little bit easier in some ways with grids, which shipped to config this year, but we know that that's far from the holy grail of tables. And it's definitely something we talk about a lot. I know Dylan, the CEO, personally cares a lot about this use case and brings it up often as something he would love for us to improve. So it comes up often. We know that it's a common use case. We also know that there's different kinds of tables, right? Even in FigJam, you have a table primitive in slides as well. And we have to sort of reconcile sometimes like what kind of table primitives are right for what context. And sometimes a lightweight, simple one works great. Other times you actually need a lot of detail and fidelity because each cell contains its own component. And so lots to explore. Grids might help you out for now and hopefully more to come.
Yeah. Great.
On mute.
I think I've learned by now. We've only done this, 50 times. Okay, so let's see here. There was one that I thought was a good one. Sorry, I'm losing it amidst the stream of questions here. Bear with me. Okay, yeah. So Noah, you mentioned third of your user is developers and another third is designers. Every product requires collaborations between design and dev. You share your experience or any advice to create more collaborative, fun experiences or relationships between design and devs? He's finding tension more prevalent in many work environments.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think it's probably true of a lot of different kinds of relationships in the world. Of like, how do you have a good communication? How do you improve how to work together? And I think a lot of it's about understanding each other. So a lot about like, well, where are they coming from? What are their goals? What's important to them? Hopefully, they'll show the same interest in you and what you're trying to build as a designer throughout. A couple things. I often like to, if they haven't, people want to feel heard, right? And if they have an idea and they feel like you're ignoring it because you believe it's a bad idea, and it could be a bad idea, I don't know. Even just taking a minute to hear them out and try it out, especially these new tools, Figma, Make, whatever, you can make something feel pretty real pretty quickly. If only to say, here's why I think that isn't a great idea. And so trying to not immediately show up with resistance is one thing to do. Making sure that they feel connected to part of the problem. A lot of times, designers will say like, I wish I was in the room earlier, right? Or I wish I was involved earlier. Developers often will feel the same way. And that's not everyone. Some developers are actually like, you know what? I just need to know what I need to build. I don't care about everything behind it. That's fine. A lot of developers, and increasingly so, care. They want to be a part, of the process of why we're doing what we're doing. They want to feel the value that they spent. Think about how many hours they spend fixing bugs or trying to make something real. If you didn't care about what it was for, you probably wouldn't either put as much work into it or wouldn't feel as good. So I think just involving them early, I know it's kind of classic advice, but I think it's true. Getting them involved in making designs together even and being creative and discussing things. But I think it's hard to give blanket advice for how to work with developers, unfortunately, I find, because different developers have different ways of working, different teams have different goals, different companies have different processes. So those are a couple ideas to get you going, but you'd really have to debug the specifics of that relationship.
There's a proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I think that very much applies to this designer-developer relationship. A prototype can be a super powerful thing, but it can also give the impression to your developer partners that you've already got it figured out. Now just go execute on what we have here. So to the degree you can sit down together and work through some ideas where they have input, they're involved in that creation process, that can be huge. And just building some bridges.
So we're getting close to the wrap up here. There's definitely the list of questions, and we'll try to provide some links in the After Effects when we send this out. But Noah, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you'd like to answer, or any questions that stand out to you here?
Yeah, let me scan through the questions. And see if there's any ones I can kind of quickly get to or end on. Let's see. Yeah, and these are great, and keep it coming. I mean, I think as I mentioned earlier, like we we have learned so much from the community and truly genuinely want to know what it is that you need from us, what you're hoping for, what you want to see. So there's no right or wrong way to get that to us. You can use social media, you can use our forums, you can use the little question mark on the bottom right of the tool and submit it there. Just I think honestly that's the most important thing to me to end on is like, don't be shy. You have so many good ideas as designers. You probably have an intuition of what you wish we did. Let us know. I can't say how important it is for us as we shape our roadmaps to know what it is that you're looking for. Now it's not always about that. Obviously, the faster horses thing, sure, but we've really learned a lot from you all as a community, and hope to continue to.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a couple small questions in here, like baseline shift on lines of text and rims and M's for text sizing, those sorts of things, which, those are interesting and useful.
We will collect all of these and I will send them internally. And so, yeah, keep it coming in the chat or Q&A, whatever. We'll definitely make sure this gets back to the team.
Yeah. I've got one question here from Liz. I know Liz asked a question earlier, but I think this is a good one to end on. What key lessons did you take from working on the latest version of Figma?
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, we're getting, if you think about the experience of having 8 products at Figma now, my methods of helping to, improve them or guide or shape the team have to change because I can no longer, be involved in every detail of every product. There's so many products. There's so much to do, so much to learn. So I think I've learned a lot about, picking a few and delegating, of course, and distributing that responsibility across them, figuring out, how to still be helpful and help my team be helpful throughout doing that. I think we have an increasing audience in the company, right? If you think about all the different people coming to Figma, and I think we're continuing to learn about what those different audiences need. And so that's a big lesson for me is like, for example, with Buzz and marketers, like I haven't personally spent enough time in my career understanding the needs of marketers and how they get the word of your company out and tell those stories. And so I think there's a lot of lessons about, oh, right, like probably need to start understanding that. I think we understand designers somewhat well, but maybe not all of these other creative fields. So I think that's a big lesson too, is like, how do we invest more time in understanding those different audiences as well?
Fantastic. It's a great place to wrap. Noah, thank you so much for taking time to chat with us today. You started us with this point that Figma's driving force is community, and I think this speaks volumes to that point, that spending time here with the Design Better community and a lot of other folks who joined us for the first time. If you're new to Design Better, maybe you've not signed up, or you want to go deeper into design, visit designbetterpodcast.com. Lots and lots of great stuff that's there for free. And if you want to go deeper into the books and all the recordings from our past AMAs, they're all there to explore. But thank you again, Noah. Thank you, everybody, for attending, for asking questions. Just a reminder, this was recorded. This recording will be right here at this exact URL in your browser shortly. It's just going to take a minute for the video to process. We'll email it out to anyone who registered, and we'll post it on our website shortly too. So thank you one and all. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Noah. Thank you, Figma. Thanks for bringing us lots of cool design tools.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for having me. This has been awesome.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.